longtime NCAA head coach, currently at the University of Texas, Sean Miller. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be on with you guys.
We're happy to have you. And, this is part of a new regime for the Bulls, a new look. They have Bryson Graham now. They have Tiago Splitter. And I feel like Dailyn Swain is part of a new page for this Bulls organization. What do you think about just him being a part of something that is it's setting a new tone here in Chicago?
Well, first, let me speak on Bryson. I don't know if anybody has put in more work in just collecting, data on Dalen, showing up, watching practices as far back as when Dalen would have been a freshman playing for us at Xavier. And I think that Bryson has always been fond of Dalen, but he's tracked him. He's watched his growth and improvement. He's learned why Dalen improved the way he has. And so I know that they put a lot of effort and a lot of homework and a lot of great work to come up with the choice of Dalen. And me and Dalen, we go back about 5 years. Recruited him to Xavier. It's a great story. He's from Columbus, Ohio. Nobody in the Big Ten really offered him a scholarship. He was very, very young as a freshman. Came in at 178 pounds. And this year, when you guys watched him at Texas, 3 full years later, he weighs 220 pounds and really had a record-breaking season here in the SEC for us. But I have a special place in my heart for Dailyn Swain, and I don't know if anybody that I've ever coached has come so far and will go so far as I believe he will.
Sean, it's really a new era because just the idea that he, played the 2 years at Xavier, then went to Texas with you when you left Xavier for the second time and this time going to Texas. I'm so curious as to when you describe him to a pro fan base here in Chicago that isn't as familiar with him, because obviously this is not SEC country or even old Big 12 country, if you will. What do you want people to know about Dailyn Swain, the player and the person?
Well, first, and again, I go back to Bryson doing his homework and the detail that he really put together over this not 1 year, but a three maybe plus year time frame to decide on Dalen. Dalen is super smart. He's super smart off the court in terms of decision making. He has great self awareness. He knows he's a rookie in the NBA. He knows that he has to continue to get better. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. That's a big reason why he has become what he's become. He's been out there to prove the world wrong, that he is a pro, that he's better than given credit for. And I think that you're going to find that he's going to be very hungry, hardworking, and again, that self-awareness and that intelligence, as you guys know, that's so powerful in the world of the NBA because that, to me, those two things coincide with the guy that will continue to grow and develop and accept his role, in the locker room, at practice, the long course of an NBA season. You're dealing with somebody who knows who he is and knows that he has to keep getting better. In terms of on the court, he's blessed with making great decisions with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He can play with the ball in his hands. Today's pick and roll, thrives in transition, and just really learned how to finish as well. Scoring just below 20 points a game is no easy task in the SEC, and that's what he did for us this year. So I would also tell you this: if you look at his rebounding, I think that's a statistic that translates. Young player in the Big East Conference during UConn's great years, and then this past year in SEC, he's always been at the top of the best rebounders in the league. And, for somebody who's 6'8", again, I think that translates to becoming a really good NBA player.
We're talking to University of Texas basketball men's head coach Sean Miller on Rahimi, Harris, and Grote on 104.3 the Score. And, Coach, I think it says a lot, too, when you choose to grow with a player. You talk about how you two were together at Xavier. He comes with you to Texas. I think that that's a compliment in and of itself to be able to work together with him for so many years in the way you guys have.
No, for sure. And again, I think that really bodes well for like who he is, what you guys have in Chicago with Dalen. He went to a public school in the city of Columbus, single A, never changed, start to finish, never went to another prep school, played on the same travel team, all Ohio Red, had opportunities to jump, didn't Didn't do that. Came to Xavier. The only reason he left is because we left. I think he trusted our strength coach. He trusted our staff, me as a head coach. Came to us, didn't take another visit, just came with us to Texas, believed in who he was, but also believed in that stability and change isn't something that he embraces. He wants to stay with it, fight through those tough periods of time. So, when you have somebody who's given you that in return, when you see it pay off the way it paid off and what and how it's going to continue to pay off for him, it's really why you get into coaching. I think that's what's sometimes lost in college sports. There are stories like Dailyn Swain. And when you're a coach and you're affiliated with him and you're the University of Texas, you feel good about somebody like him when he gets drafted by the Bulls. You got a winner and somebody who's a first-class person.
Coach, I think you also led us into a bit of Bryson Graham's process. We're still learning a lot about him and who he is, and we already have great stories about the work that he puts in. And you talking about the work that he put in and understanding who Dalen was as a player early on. What can you tell us about the conversations either you guys had or just what you observed about Bryson Graham and how he goes about trying to figure out talent?
Thorough, professional, detailed. Thorough, professional, detailed. They've been tracking Dalen. Bryson has, I'm sure he will tell you this, for over a 3-year window. He himself attended multiple practices at both places, Texas and Xavier. He put the work in. His team put the work in. So, that doesn't just that isn't just a Dailyn Swain exclusive. That's just how he approaches his business, and I think that you'll see that very quickly in Chicago as his regime and Tiago as his coach and even Caleb Wilson. I mean, I had the opportunity to watch Caleb work out in the spring after the season had ended, and just his talent just jumps off the page. I couldn't believe how big he was and yet how skilled, and his upside is incredible. So I think the future is really bright. This year's draft, I think, will really come through for Chicago.
I love hearing that. Sean Miller, the head basketball coach at the University of Texas, joining us here on Rahimi Harrison, Grote Show, Rahimi, Marshall Harrison. Sean, I do want to ask you about, every player gets put under a microscope during this process, the strengths, the weaknesses. We know about his versatility, as you talked about, his decision-making. Tell me about the evolution of his shot from a perimeter standpoint, because one thing I do love about him, even though he wasn't the greatest three-point shooter, is he consistently shot 81% or above from the free throw line. And to me, that's kind of a tell that maybe you can get his perimeter shot where you want it to be. How did you bring along his three-point shooting, and what more potential do you see there?
Right. So I think if you look at the history of the game, players that get to the free throw line a lot, so he has a lot of attempts, and he shot over 80% for his career. That includes when he wasn't a three-point shooter at Xavier as a freshman, and really really as a sophomore too. So he's always had it in him. He put the work in. His guide hand was involved in his shot at a really bizarre rate when he was a high school player. And it's very difficult to change your shot when you get in college. Dalen did. He got his guide hand off the ball. He shot before practice, after practice. Last summer, he put thousands of shots in his off time. He knew that was something he had to improve. And then you just look at what he did this past year in the SEC. He was more than capable. He shot them every game, and he shot in the 30s. So the evolution goes, didn't ever shoot a three, to shot a couple. Then it became shot him every day in practice, in live action, put the work in. And then it started to trickle into the game. And then this past year, he shot threes every day, put the work in, and then it led into the game. And I think when you couple that with his free throw percentage, as you alluded to, he's only going to keep getting better, because I'll go back to how I began. If you tell him, I need you to do this to be the best player for the Chicago Bulls, Dalen will do that. He's not going to fight you. He's smart. He understands who he is, and he knows that he has to continue to grow and develop. The players that I've coached that have had long NBA careers are players that keep working and keep getting better. You guys actually had one, and I know it's not a good story in Chicago, but Lauri Markkanen is a guy that I coached. I believed in Lauri, and if you look at Lauri, continued to grow and get better. His best years weren't necessarily right there at the very beginning, when there was a lot of change in the Bulls organization And Lowry, he's from Finland. He's not going to do well in a chaotic environment. But as his environment settled and he kept growing, he kept working, and he's a smart guy, you guys see he became an NBA All-Star. I think in Dalen's case, he shares some of those same qualities of like he knows who he is, he's smart, and he's a worker. He's going to put the work in. He's going to be very, very coachable, and he's going to follow the direction. And I think in today's world, the young, talented player, that quality is just, man, that may be more important than any other quality. The other thing I just wanted to hit on is the two-way player in the NBA. Dalen has a huge upside defensively, and I think that also is a big reason why the Bulls liked him. He can guard multiple positions. He knows what to do and how to do it. His ability to get steals, block shots, defensive rebound, like he can also impact winning on that side of the ball, and he knows that about himself. Like he has to be a two-way player. So, as his shot develops, I think what you'll have early is somebody who, as a young player, can also contribute on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh, Coach, I can assure you we miss Larry Markkinen and his talent.
I know.
We knew he had a lot of potential. So, yeah, we completely understand that we got to see Larry develop somewhere else. I always like asking this question, too, especially since you've got the resume you do. There's always advice that college coaches will give their former players once they get into the NBA. They're never really your former players, as you know. So what is some of the advice you give? Like situational basketball comes to mind. I feel like a lot of college coaches talk about that with the transition into the NBA. Is there some advice you always give your guys when it comes to what you have to know next to be on top of the NBA game?
My final conversation with Dalen as the coach at Texas when he was still my player is, you enter the draft and you need to stay in it. This isn't about testing the waters. You're an NBA player. Mm-hmm. And there's three types of categories you can go into. You can be the guy who celebrates being picked. It can end there. You can have just a blip on the screen where people a few years from now say like, whatever, where is he? What team does he play on? Is he still in the NBA? Or you can have a real NBA career. And it's going to be dependent on two things. That chip on your shoulder that you've had, you cannot lose it. You have to keep it, and you have to keep getting better. Like you're a ninth grader all over again. It's about adding to your game, listening, and staying on that same path that led him from, a small school, public school in Columbus, Ohio, to being the 15th pick in the NBA draft coming out of Texas. So I think if Dalen listens to that, and I know he will, he's going to be an NBA career guy. And, I hope it's with the Bulls the entire time.
Really quick before we get you out of here, Sean, I do want to ask, because we've had so much discussion about that number 4 pick and the comps, the Kevin Garnett ceiling/floor, who, depending on who you ask. Is there a comp you can see? I know comps aren't always fair, but is there someone that plays in the NBA for our audience that you could see him blooming into that would be comparable to what you see for Dailyn Swain?
It's so hard to compare, right? Because it's the environment, the team that he's on, how it works at the very beginning. But the way I would just frame it to you guys is like he's today's prototypical NBA player. He's 6'8", a little less than 220. He's young. He's very, very versatile. It's not one thing that you like about him. It's the fact that he can impact winning both on defense and on offense, and he can do a myriad of things. And I know it also stems from this. You have to be able to shoot the ball and keep people honest, and don't give up on him as a shooter. His best days are ahead of him. So I think that what you're getting isn't necessarily like a clone of one player, but I think that the way the game has changed and evolved and grown, when you look at the Spurs and the Knicks in that championship series, they have a lot of versions of who Dalen is. That versatile wing that can do a lot of things, but in particular can do it on both sides of the ball. He's today's player.
Coach Sean Miller, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Sean.
My pleasure, and I'm excited about your future.
Well, we're excited to give my best to Scott McConnell, the SID, who helped get this interview for us. I worked with him and also Have some Torchy's queso for us, Coach.
Yeah. A lot of good options in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. That is Sean Miller, the head coach of the University of Texas Longhorns men's basketball team. Kind enough. And yes, Scott McConnell helped out with that to join us here on 104.3 The Score.
You want to talk about people who don't age? Sean Miller, I covered his first year as the head coach of Xavier right after they made their Elite Eight run, and Thad Matta left for Ohio State. That man looks the same as he did, what was that, 15, 20 years ago?
If there's one thing I know about UT coaches, it's kind of like Billy Donovan. If you want to learn, they will teach you, man. The only other question I would have had for him was about how he's seeing the second round of the draft. I think is also a big tell for college coaches right now. Like you're finally seeing some sort of equilibrium when it comes to expectation, but maybe for another day. But man, I love it. Coaches will always teach you if you're willing to ask, and the UT coaches have always been that way. It's part of the reason I know anything in this world about sports.